Hey, Feminist Frequency fans. It is the second week of our year-end fundraising campaign. Today, we announced one of the reasons we need your support, a new games and online harassment hotline. This is a text message-based, 24/7, free, anonymous, and confidential emotional support hotline created specifically for the gaming community to help deal with abuse, harassment, or trauma in our communities. Go to feministfrequency.com/donate today and help everyone in our communities get the help they need.
I mean, this movie wasn't even written by the wokest dad in existence, but it's like a semi-woke dad that's like, girl could be Santa, and then just that's all.
Welcome to Feminist Frequency Radio. This is the show that asks you to be critical of the media you love. I'm Anita Sarkeesian, and my usual Christmas elves, Carolyn and Ebony, are busy helping Santa prepare for Christmas. So today, I'm joined by Santa's technologically savvy cousins, Caitlin Durante and Jamie Loftus from the Bechdel Cast.
Hello.
Hi.
Do.
Ho, ho, ho.
Yes, so we are having a very special Christmas episode, Feminist Frequency / Bechdel Cast Crossover.
Woo, woo.
Yeah.
What? And just in time to talk about Disney Plus's latest feature in the Christmas film genre, Noelle. Here's a clip from the trailer.
My name is Noelle Kringle.
Morning, Princess.
My partridge in a pear tree underwear needs washing.
Oh, well, then my Christmas wish has been granted.
Christmas runs in my family. My dad was Santa, and now it's my brother Nick's turn to wear the hat.
Stocking full of coal if I've ever seen one.
He saved a kitten from a tree.
So nice.
All right, y'all, we are so excited to have you here. So Jamie and Caitlin are both LA-based writers and comedians, and like I said before, hosts of the Bechdel Cast, which I have been on, so I feel like we're just doing a little reverse here, except I've given you a worse movie here. When I was on your episode, we talked about Point Break, which is one of the best movies.
A classic.
Yes.
Exactly.
A classic.
So I'm sorry.
Hey.
I'm sorry in advance.
I think it's more fun to talk about bad movies.
It really is.
I really think that, okay, Noelle, everything is wrong with it, right? But I think in some ways it's a triumphant return for the DCOM genre. In some ways, where you're like, it's not good.
What's a DCOM genre?
Oh my gosh.
I have so much to learn.
So Disney Channel original movies, right? So you've got the classics. Caitlin also did not grow up with. Did you grow up with them, Anita?
No, I grew up in Canada. I don't think we had Disney.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
That's not true at all.
I was like, is it
Canada
Disney?
doesn't.
I mean, I watched a lot of The Little Mermaid.
Okay. So Disney, so I grew up with Disney Channel original movies because my parents' house was a daycare and they wanted me to be quiet. So I've seen all of them. And it's just like low budget kids movies that would only appear on the Disney Channel. They're fortunately now on, like they're all on Disney Plus in all their horrific glory. Some of them are great. Some of them are truly like forgettable. Some of them are offensive.
Important question.
Yes.
Have you gone back and watched any of them?
Yes, of course. Of course. I live and die by the Cheetah Girls to this day. Like the Cheetah Girls is a classic.
No idea what she's talking about either.
Halloween Town is
Halloween
a classic.
Town. We've talked about a couple of them on the podcast.
High School Musical was a
Started
Disney
out.
Channel original movie. It's one of the breakout hits. There are so many good ones. And they're all, I think, weird. Like they're just like Disney-fied problematic in a very similar way that this movie is. And so while it's like, this is not good, we need changes. It's also, it felt like, oh, I know this flavor of problematic. I haven't seen this in a while. It's back.
Yeah. We recently just did The Long Kiss Goodnight on the cast,
Ooh,
which
I haven't seen
we had
that.
all seen, but rewatching it now, it's one of those things where it's like this older film that everyone's kind of heard of, but it wasn't like super popular.
That's like Gina Davis like
Samuel L.
figures out
Jackson.
that she's a spy.
Exactly.
Oh,
Yeah.
I don't know what this movie is.
so deeply sexist, but it's I was like, Jesus, how much do we have to talk about? There's so much in this. And when you go back and you look at those, you're like, I know I didn't notice half this shit when I watched it the first time. It's
Right.
like with a different lens that we have now. So Christmas movies or
That's
holiday
why we're
movies,
here.
rather.
Yes.
Okay, well, let's get into this movie that we suffered through. So Disney Plus original Noelle. She is the daughter of Kris Kringle. Her favorite holiday is Christmas. She has a pet baby reindeer, and everything is jolly.
The worst CGI'd reindeer I've ever seen in my entire life. I was like, oh my God, some like intern.
Have you seen
CGI
the
this
Santa
reindeer.
Claus? Because that's some pretty bad
At
CGI
least they look
reindeer.
three-dimensional. I don't know.
No, they don't.
They sort of do. They,
All right.
They fart.
That's what's important.
What I was missing from this reindeer is it didn't fart enough.
That's true. That's true.
Yep.
You can tell which age demographic they're going for depending on how much flatulence is in a movie or not.
That's true.
But so everything is jolly, and it's deeply jolly, and until her father dies, which frankly everything is still weirdly jolly when her father dies, so that's kind of weird. But anyway, her brother Nick takes over as Santa because, you know, the patriarchy.
Yeah.
But then Nick runs away and becomes a hippie yoga instructor, and lo and behold, Noelle really is the heir to the Santa throne. Sorry, spoilers, but this movie is trash, and I'm not actually sorry at all. So let's do this.
Oh boy.
Where to begin?
Yeah, what would you like to? What of the many? They both just pulled out their
Okay.
phones.
We've got notes.
Well, we love taking
I would
notes.
like to start with the beginning.
Please.
So, like, I don't watch a lot of holiday films. Yeah, I
Okay.
kind of wanted to do like an anatomy of holiday films episode, but then I was like, I don't know shit about this genre, so we're not going to do that. But the opening. So I should also mention it's starring Anna Kendrick. Like, this is not like a
Yes.
super low budget.
No, Bill Hader's in it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
what's her
Billie.
name?
I kept writing down
Shirley
Billie
MacLaine?
Eilish, but I meant Billie Eichner.
Yeah.
They're basically the same person.
Right. Billie
there
Eilish
are
on the
some
street.
pretty-
Sorry.
pretty meaty, substantial people in it. So anyways, it opens up and it's very holiday and Christmas. And it's just like every goddamn pun that I've ever heard about Christmas
Oh,
is integrated
my
in
God.
the first
I made a
It's
list.
5 minutes.
exhausting.
Oh, please. Let's go through your list.
Exhausting.
Okay, so we opened Santa. The reveal, right? Okay, so we meet Noelle and her brother as children, and she's like, Christmas, there's like the voiceover, Christmas is my favorite time of year. Christmas Eve is the best. I love when Santa comes. And then
Sound just like her. It's great.
Santa shows
Overly
up.
precocious
and it's-
child
Mhm.
trope. Hate it.
She's like, I made this card and Santa's here now and I'm so excited. And then she's like sneaking around and Santa's like lurking in the living room. And then then they start interacting and you're like, oh my gosh, she's meeting Santa for the first time.
Were you so surprised?
Just kidding. He's her dad.
Already you're just like, this family is weird. This family is like doing this weird little sexy thing with each other.
Well, and then so
don't
there's
like
all of
it.
that stuff that happens, and then her mom comes in, and then the siblings
She's
say
in
to
on
each
it.
other, like, "Mommy's kissing
I
Santa
saw
Claus."
mommy yeah.
It's
And
a
I
kinky
was-
family.
Oh, I wanted to turn it off right then and there.
Yeah.
That was
Icky.
the worst.
Also, that moment, they're just like and it's like everyone's, children will love this movie and good, right? But
But we get to make fun of it because we're adults.
because we're grown-ups, and if you're a child listening to this, sorry, but there's like where she has that whole conversation with Santa, and then she's like, Dad, and then Nick wakes up and is like, oh my God, Dad. I'm like, he's Santa.
Right.
What, are you dumb? Like, and he is dumb, which we learn later. That's another twist.
Which it was I did not see that one coming
right.
at all.
Imagine.
I mean, it's fine when like it is a movie for a particular like age group. It's fine that it's like ham-fisted and that there are all these like
Totally.
clear foreshadowing elements to it, but it still was so overwrought with
It's so DCOM.
I mean-
I'm very excited for whenever you run out of Disney Plus stuff that you want to watch, and then you start watching old Disney Channel original movies. These are the hallmarks, the narrative dissonance, the weirdly kinky families. These are all a part of the DCOM genre.
I think I'm going to have to take your word for that. I think
Every
that I might
family.
I think I will just switch streaming services when I get to that point. I've actually
HBO
already
Max will
gotten to
be
that
out.
point.
But there is like this, I don't know, DCOM heads sound off in the comments, but there is like a weirdly, I don't know what it is for like movies that are of this genre, that all the families are supposed to think they're happy, but they kind of seem like they're all in love. Like
Yeah.
not like they love each other, like they're in love.
Yeah.
It's too much. It's weird. It betrays a history of the writer more than anything else.
True.
You're just like, is this what a happy family would be like for you?
Right. But
I don't
then,
know.
but you've got like the, oh, I'm watching mommy kissing Santa Claus. That's pun. I think number
and then
2.
the kid's like,
The first one is Santa gets out his list and he's like, let me check. I don't know if you're nice or naughty. Getting out my list, checking it twice. And I'm just
we're
like,
like,
I don't want to keep watching this.
I'm laughing up.
Well, should I have more of the puns?
Please, let's
Can
just do it.
go
Let's
in?
get him out of the way. Start. Pull out your Christmas bingo cards.
Yes.
There's a reporter who is asking Noelle. She's like, "Can I ask you a few questions?" And Noelle replies, "I'm all earmuffs."
Haha.
Ha ha ha.
Oh, and what's the thing that they say instead of "Oh my God"? Oh my garland.
Oh my garland.
My garland.
That happened a lot.
lot.
They were really trying to make that a thing.
It's not.
Similarly,
Yeah, that was their what the fork.
It was absolutely
right.
that.
It
Yeah.
really was.
Or
Anna
Freq
Kendrick wants
for
to
the
be
old
Kristen
school
Bell
folks.
so bad sometimes that it makes me uncomfortable.
someone says, "Hold your reindeer" instead of like "hold your horses," which like barely
Caitlin.
works. I'm sorry. You're right. It's funny.
We're
It's
laughing.
comedy.
Please insert some laugh track.
We've got someone says that's someone's being pessimistic, and Noelle says that's pretty stocking half empty.
Yeah, that one happened. Yeah.
There's a couple another reindeer one. Bill Hader's teaching yoga because he's been in Phoenix, Arizona for a day, and so automatically he gets to teach yoga now.
I mean, to be fair,
Okay, but
that's
like,
not inaccurate. Let's.
I like how they were just like, well, I said this in our group text too, so I'm sounding redundant. But
Nobody
I
knows
do,
that. It's fine.
But I need to acknowledge it to the room where I feel terrible. But I'm like, okay, this is not a big budget. Like half of the budget is, or like 95% of the budget is going to the cast, right?
Yeah.
And then 5% is like, oh, we need to get a camera. And so they were just like, okay, how do we save money on this movie? Green screens, Phoenix. Like those are the two quickest ways to not pay anything to make a movie. It's kind of brilliant.
well, they also had to have gotten a boatload of money from like product placement, right?
Petco.
I mean, iPad, Chrysler.
So here's the thing about the
Tommy
iPad.
Hilfiger.
The iPad had to have been product placement because then you couldn't actually say it without, all the big companies have to all, get permission and
Right,
shit.
right.
But like that joke doesn't work as a tablet. So the joke we're referencing is that like, which I actually thought was a pretty funny joke, if I'm gonna be honest.
Okay,
do you
DCOMs are
love
great.
this
I mean,
movie?
it is.
There were two things I liked about this. No, three. There's three. I got three things.
Okay.
But there's this ongoing joke about how every child wants an iPad for Christmas, which I think is actually kind of funny. And that joke doesn't work with like a tablet or an Android device.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like say iPad and they do. And they get
Because Apple doesn't
money.
do a ton of product placement.
No. And
So-
it kind of works here. I mean, it's like, it does. Do you remember the episode of 30 Rock where Tracy Morgan has to say the name of a company like 3 times in every scene or he doesn't get paid?
Right. Yeah.
I forget what the name of the thing is, but it kind of felt like that where I'm like, oh, they have to say iPad 14
Right.
times. So like it was contractually agreed upon. They will say iPad 14 times. But the joke was good. I wasn't bothered. And I hope that Petco had it in their contract that they're like, whoever's wearing the Petco hat has to be sexy.
Well, the narrative required him to be because he has to be the crush of the manager of like the outdoor
Phoenix
mall place.
Phoenix outlet malls or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out to the outlet malls. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good place to land if you've never been outside of the North Pole. Apparently.
Right.
I have a couple of questions
Please.
before like all the gender stuff.
Oh, yeah.
What would it be like to have Santa as a father?
Well, Noelle would lead you to believe that in spite of the fact that he underestimates your potential at literally every turn, it's basically amazing.
She makes really cool cards though, and she's such a good cheerleader.
Oh my God. Her parents are so frustrated. Like I think that there have been Disney movies in which a child holds resentment towards a parent. I would say even in the Santa Claus, that happens at different points. Also, this movie does not abide by the Santa Claus rules because Santa dies and Santa's a monarchy in this situation.
Right.
Which I like less than this Tim Allen version of it where you have to kill Santa.
But he's the benevolent monarch. Clearly, everybody's happy in that town.
Well, I have
beloved, right? Like, what is
I have
going
a
on
question
there?
about this.
Yes.
Okay. And this might be getting into the gender stuff, but we can, we'll jump
Ron
around.
Funches lives there.
Ron Funches. Why is he in this
And
movie?
Billie Eilish lives there.
Okay, so we are led to believe. We find out later on that the monarchy of Santas has been reigning for 1,000 years, at least in this particular family. Scary, right? So, but it's only been male Santas up to this point because they've been enforcing like women can't be Santa, only men can be Santa. So does that must mean that Santa has had male offspring all down the line who have wanted to take over being the new Santa. And so my question is, if he has not, did he like behead his wife like Henry VIII style? Is that who did that? Don't remember. I think that sounded right at the time. But I'm like, do we have like a medieval Santa who just like chops his wife's heads off until she gives him a male heir?
Well, when you put it that way, it kind of sounds like this is more like The Crown than I originally thought it was.
This movie,
that's the backstory. Clearly.
Yeah, it's kind of like The Crown.
Where's the prequel that takes place in like 1341?
Yeah, old school.
Yeah,
old school Santa.
It definitely does glorify monarchies in a way that okay. Speaking from a class perspective,
sure.
Maybe that's a fun place because the gender stuff is infinity. From a class perspective, this movie also is weird and sucks because Noelle seems to realize at age 30. I don't know if we're supposed to believe Anna Kendrick is her actual age or
it's
like
unclear.
Hollywood.
Well, like
Super
Bill
unclear,
Hader's
right?
like visibly 40 in this movie.
Right, but people never want you to think that. Like it's
Right.
confusing.
Uh-huh.
But so they're both, 25, right? but like there's this climactic speech at the end where Noelle seems to reveal that she just realized that poor or less fortunate people than her exist at like age 30.
Right.
And she was like, "Hey everybody, I don't know if you know this, but there are people who are less fortunate out there." And the elves are all like, "We know." Like you're
Well, also there's a moment in relation to some of that where I don't even want to explain how we get to this point, but her brother runs away and everyone blames her. So there's no Santa and Christmas is going to be canceled and it's all her fault. So she no longer gets like special discounts at stores.
I could not
and
have
has
less
to pay
sympathy for her.
full price at her little Christmas stores.
Yeah.
And it's really awkward and weird and related to this idea of like
Right.
hyper privilege. So like, and there are workers in the North Pole in this like glorious happy community, like the servers.
There's a working class.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so
There's
you
a whole
don't
caste system.
ever notice that.
And we're supposed to feel like it's pretty clearly mapped that you're supposed to feel bad that Noelle can't get a table at Squirrel anymore. Or like you're
That's
just
a
like,
deep LA reference for you, for folks who are not local.
but like fancy bistro, right? Like she can't get all her like, little like fancy things anymore. She can't get rich people stuff. And we're like, oh no, that's, but
Yeah, you're being ostracized, you poor little rich girl.
which is weird because it's like you could come at that from a gender perspective and have that be way more effective of like, why are you going after like the woman instead of holding Bill Hader accountable for
Right.
leaving? But instead they're just like, let's go at this from a class perspective. People will feel good about rich people. I think that it's also like, you can tell that Disney's trying to, I don't know. I'm always like, what were the studio notes here? Where you're like, I feel like maybe there's a draft of this movie where they're from the Santa family, but it's not explicitly stated that she is a princess, which she is repeatedly called a princess.
Yes.
And you're just like, oh, this is a Disney movie. Like she's called a princess kind of for no reason repeatedly. I don't know. Yeah, it just feels like you're kind of whacked over the head with like it just seems dumb. Like you could, if you just go at that plot point from a gender perspective. It's way more, it's easier to feel empathy for Noelle than if you're just like, doesn't it suck that rich people sometimes don't get what they want? You're like, no,
Right.
I don't really care about that.
I mean, it would maybe stand to reason that, the North Pole community, they have a whole economy there.
Santa's the 1%.
He's the 1%.
Right.
It would be like a patriarchy. Yeah, of course. They probably would go after like, they're like, oh, a
Santa's
woman
like
tried
Trump.
to do something. She made.
I was like, how many analogies can we go down?
You're like, maybe the elves are
Sorry
kind
to
of
cut you
being
off.
like, but like maybe the elves are being kind of like eat the rich about this. They're like, fuck you.
Like, this could be like in Harry Potter, the whole part, the house elves and the movement that got cut out of the movies that's in the book.
championing for
I
the
want to
house
see that
elves.
movie.
Right?
Well, on both counts.
Right.
I think if you think of Noelle like an Ivanka Trump character, the read of the movie can really change.
Oh man. Or like how
Let's go with this. Santa is Trump.
Okay, let's remake this video.
Yeah.
This movie. Let's crowdfund
basically a video.
funds to we'll do it. It's fine.
Yeah.
So like, my other question that's unrelated to the very interesting topic we're going to is like,
Yes.
what would it be like if your house was always Christmas decorated? Is their house always Christmas decorated?
It seems
it would
that
have to
way.
It feels like a lot of pressure.
Again, I'm gonna. We just
And then how is it still special?
right. It's like, don't you? I don't.
wouldn't that become so mundane if your entire life was Christmas?
And when you're like 45 and still living at home and everything is Christmas all the time, there's no way you're fucking jolly.
Right.
Right.
I mean, they think differently than
Maybe
us.
they
That's
have
true.
drugs in their water.
Maybe there's something in the water. Maybe again, I think that
The ice caps are melting. I don't know.
the underclass is miserable. They want to escape Christmas desperately, but they can't. And and Noelle becomes their oppressor. And it just becomes this whole thing.
Oh yeah, it would make sense that she would love Christmas still because like that's the thing that
She
empowers
benefits
her. Yeah,
from-
you're right.
Christmas is her Amazon Prime.
But the working class in the North Pole would be like, fuck this. Like this is
Yeah.
ruining our lives. Let's revolt.
It's very
That's
dark.
what the movie should have been about.
Well,
very
so,
dark.
okay, there's also something interesting here because historically, these kinds of movies are all about boys and men, and Santa's always a man. And like, this movie feels like something out of attempts to be progressive.
Right.
Like
Yes.
Disney being like, oh, women, cool.
What
cool,
if
cool, cool,
Santa,
cool.
but
girl. right. It's just like at minute 3, I'm like, if this movie wasn't written and directed by some guy, I will run into traffic. But sure enough, it was written and directed by some guy. Like it's 2019 is so weird. It's just like, yeah, they're trying, but it's all wrong.
And then at the end, so you see Anna, I'm just gonna call her Anna Kendrick. It's fine.
Yeah, basically.
Noelle, it's very much Anna Kendrick.
She's always playing Anna Kendrick.
Yeah. So she is like, it's very clear that she is excited and has the spirit and the know-how to be Santa. And you see it like pop up throughout the whole movie of like the things that her brother can't do, she can, where she can like look at a human and tell whether they're good or not. That feels very monarchical. It's creepy.
I'm like, you don't know.
Oh, I have a whole spiel about that. We'll
She-
get there.
she
We'll
can
get
speak
there.
any
Go for it.
language.
I was gonna
the
go.
whole-
I was gonna go into the rest of that.
I'll
bit.
make this quick as
No, go for it.
possible.
Go, Caitlin.
So we're in Act 2 now, right? She's landed in Phoenix. And by the way, how much did the Phoenix tourism board or like Arizona like pay this movie to
Here's
have
the
it
thing.
be set
Shooting something in Phoenix costs $14. I really can't emphasize it enough.
So they're in
And
Phoenix.
if they shoot it in August, Phoenix pays you.
Right.
Yeah.
So she's landed in Phoenix. She has met up with this private investigator to try to help find her brother. They're looking for a phone to borrow, I guess, because his is dead and she doesn't have a phone. So
Right.
she's like scanning the crowd and she's like, wait, him, that guy. I have a feeling that he might be nice. And he's like, how do you know? And she's like, I don't know. I just know. So they go over to him and he is nice and whatever. But then it's been established already, and then it continues to be established that whenever we see Santa's list, the vast majority of the people on it are labeled nice. I would say like 90% are nice, 10% are naughty, roughly speaking.
Right.
So it's like the movie makes this big deal about like, how awesome is it that she could like pinpoint the one nice person in the crowd? It's like, no, according to your movie's logic,
90%.
most of the people are nice, which unrealistic, but
Well,
everyone sucks. No,
but if we're going on the 1% logic, that's actually quite progressive and accurate.
So that was I was just like, you idiot movie. You don't know what you're talking about.
I did kind of like that the first language she knows is sign language.
Yeah.
That, like, to the validate, like having disability represented in this movie and having that validated as a language as it is.
Sure.
I thought was a nice little, it's one of the nice things I could say about this movie.
and bringing it back and like making, what was her name? Michelle, I think was the name of the character who used sign language. Like that was really, really, I don't know. It was cute. There were a few points in this movie where I did cry.
Wow.
I love Christmas movies.
Great. Good
They get me emotional. They get me all hyped up. And I thought that was really like sweet and nice.
Mm-hmm.
Anytime that she makes a connection with a cute kid that's like, I want an iPad. I'm like, I love capitalism. I love Anna Kendrick. Even though I don't love either of those.
Speaking of capitalism,
things.
I gotta say that the really cynical, stupid, obvious jokes about turning like an turning Santa's process into an algorithm. I enjoyed before it became really extra.
Right.
Like the little bits about how we can like turn this into an app, and then the fucking presentation that he did that was like a pitch meeting.
Billie Eilish, you wacky guy.
I mean, who else is gonna play that particular character? And then him being like, kids are bad. They're not. There's only 2,000 children in the world who are nice, and I was like, "That's probably true."
That made me laugh very hard.
I was literally like, "That's Caitlin."
I know. I tend to not like children. I'm so sorry, everyone. I'm sure your kid is wonderful, but yeah, as a collective, children aren't for me. And I was like, yeah, there probably only are like 2,000 decent ones out there.
Oh my God. But that whole, I mean, that was like another very, like, it's a very goofy of the moment Disney villain where, I don't know, like there's not really
there wasn't really a villain in this. It was just like conflict.
That's a lot of
patriarchy is the villain.
Fair.
Not that would be acknowledged. No. Like, okay, the thing that I could go on about the state of the Disney villain for a long time, but I won't do that. Instead, the thing that bothered me, I think, the most about this movie, or close to the most, I don't know, was that at the end, I mean, it's clear from the beginning that it's like Noelle is better qualified to be a Santa. It's very set up that she is Santa. And then at the end, when it finally happens, it's not her idea. It's Bill Hader's idea.
Right.
And then it's like qualified and confirmed by the male head elf who's like, hey guys, just checked the Constitution of Christmas and it turns out we goofed.
Women
can be Santa.
The whole time.
Right. Excluding women was merely an oversight. And then you're just like,
and Shirley MacLaine is in the back being like, yeah, duh.
Right. And then
but did nothing to actually speak up about it.
And then Anna Kendrick is like, me. And I'm just like, fuck you, movie. How dare it just made me so annoyed.
I did, yeah. Well,
the whole feminism is an oversight. Being affirmed by a male character is a very 2019 energy to me of like male hero shaking your hand and being like, I've decided you should be included, as opposed to like Noelle being, you know, like the actual way that it happens is like Noelle insisting over a period of years that she should be included and then seizing power, which isn't happening. It's just Bill Hader's such a nice guy. And
that's
he's
the HBO
goofy.
version of this movie.
Right.
Not the Disney version of this movie.
2019 Disney
Maybe
feminism
CBS
is testing me. It's testing me. We were doing better back when it was Cheetah Girls.
Well, the other thing about that drives me crazy is that she doesn't think to advocate for herself or to suggest that she could be.
Don't you think at some point she's
not her idea?
You off. No, sorry. Like very specifically.
It's because I'm just making such great points that everyone wants to contribute to. No, but she's like, yeah. She never thinks to be like, hey, I'm really good at this Santa thing. Maybe I should be Santa. That's not a thing that ever crosses her mind.
It has to be her brother's
and
idea.
it's because she's like she's characterized in this way that she's like a very just like naive, like childlike innocence, like I don't know my own self or my own power or anything like that, which...
And it's trying to be a bunch of things at once. Like this movie is trying to be both elf and enchanted.
Yes.
Anna Kendrick is trying to be Will Ferrell and Amy Adams, and sorry, she's neither. Like, it's just like, I'm not a fan of Anna Kendrick's.
Also, this scene just... So she is then like told to be Santa, and then she goes and be Santa quite well. But she's still super like hardcore imposter syndrome the whole time.
Right.
And here's the thing is like, we can do all of this and now like it's internalized misogyny, it's imposter syndrome, it's all this stuff. The movie does not give a fuck about any of that.
Right.
But she does not feel like Santa until she's in a goddamn homeless shelter with poor people who have no home and are sleeping in like sleeping bags on a floor, like cheering her on as Santa and thanking her for coming and bringing joy to them.
And then all of a
just
sudden you're like, this is a
feels-
class narrative again.
Yeah,
Right.
right? That didn't even occur to me until just now. Being like, that's not
It's because this movie has layers.
good.
This movie was so written by a well-intentioned dad, and it just like it's
Sorry, dads.
just, like if the wokest dad in existence, like I mean, this movie wasn't even written by the wokest dad in existence, but it's like a semi-woke dad that's like, girl could be Santa, and then just that's all. That's the whole idea. And he doesn't, I mean, I just like, it seems like I would wager to guess that if you had asked the writer of this movie, hey, did you intentionally make it be a man's idea that she should actually be Santa? I would wager he would be like, didn't think about that. Like, just, it's just like, it's so...
And in terms of race, the movie is exactly what you expect of a 2019 Disney holiday movie where it's all white people except for a couple secondary like side characters who are people of color because they had to make sure they weren't all white.
Right.
Right. Like it was just that kind of like, oh, you're not actually important and therefore you get to be you get to be cast as a person of color or like the chummy sidekick. The side chick kick was Shirley MacLaine. Like it wasn't even, you know what I mean? Like,
Which, first of all, rude to Shirley MacLaine.
Right.
But we did get this line from Ron Funches that I wrote down right away.
Oh, please, yes.
Looks like we got a Santa, guys. That's a line that Ron Funches. And it's fun because I love Ron Funches and I'm a fan of his.
Same.
And when
Very funny comedian.
When he's saying it, I feel like you can hear the paycheck in his voice. Looks like we got a Santa, guys. I was like, you're right. You know, you got mouths to feed.
Yeah, I feel like we lowlings in entertainment don't quite understand what you would sell your soul for
for sure.
for like how much money you would take to be in this stupid ass movie. Because it's also
this for sure.
Who, if you could be any character, Noelle, which would
Oh
it
my
be?
God. Who would I be?
I feel like I would do a pretty good Billy Eichner character job.
You could be
I would
the
be
Billy.
Is his name Gabe?
But you can't
I'd be
because you're
Gabriella.
Gabe. Sorry.
Gabe.
Damn it.
I would try for Bill Hader. I would try. I would just get it. Yeah.
I think you do the yoga part well.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, downward facing reindeer. That was the that was the pun
Hilarious.
that I did.
Okay, I did. I'm a big Bill Hader apologist. Not that he's done anything wrong. He seems lovely. But when I watch this, I'm like, why was Bill Hader in this? I'm like, well, he has a daughter. Sometimes famous people do things because
They're kids.
kids can't watch
Yeah.
Barry. I'm like,
Right.
I don't know. I hope he's just like, well, I got a kid. I'll be Santa in a movie. Why not?
Okay, the third thing that I liked sincerely
Yes.
was when she leaves her house, she's wearing these like shoes and then she taps them and they turn into ice skates. And I loved that. I was like, I would like those. Thank you. Or like if they could turn into rollerblades or like
that would
roller
be
skates
nice.
or something,
And you
but
sure
just
you
by
want
tapping,
it? Yeah.
I would get through airports so fast.
Oh man.
And then you would just be
Yeah.
like normal again. I guess they kind of have
Heelys.
those wheelies, the wheelie.
But they're
things.
you have to like really
Heelys.
position your foot in a certain way to get them to work.
Did you have
I would break a
Heelys?
knee.
No, I never did.
Oh, I never
would,
did
I
either.
would witness the children who did.
Yeah, I've seen some kids get rocks caught in their Heelys, and that's not a
Game
good day.
over.
Game over for those kids that could afford Heelys. Okay. Could we talk about the love story really quick?
There's a love story.
It's sort of, yeah. I mean, with
What did
that
I
guy
forget already?
Jake.
Oh,
Jake.
It has
Remember
like
Jake.
It looks like a love story, but they never actually like kiss or get romantically
right.
At
involved.
the end, he asks her. Okay, so here's the
Right.
thing that bothers me. There were a few different characters. Okay, who was the name of the mall manager? They say it once. It's Helen.
Helen, I think.
They give her the most throwaway.
Helena,
They're
maybe,
like Helen.
something like that.
So Helen, we see a few times, and the first thing we learn about her is that she is the manager of the mall. Great. Second thing we learn about her is she has a crush on a Petco guy.
Mr. Petco.
Fine. No, that's a no. Noelle, this movie does not require a romantic subplot at all. Again, it just felt to me like a having it both waysy kind of 2019 thing where they basically give her a love interest in the form of Jake, where they are flirting the whole movie. At the end, he basically is like, hey, when can I see you again? Asking her out in a kid's movie. And she's like, December 24th. You're like, okay, so we went the entire arc of giving this female Santa a love story because you're Disney and you're going to give her a love interest. And then you don't even let her have it. And then you're like, actually, female Santas don't fuck. Bye-bye. And you're just like, that bothered me too of just, it felt like they did all the steps of setting up a love story, which I don't agree with it. The story didn't require it, but to do everything and set up that entire thing and then deny the protagonist about it at the very end and be like, well, she's a working woman. She can't have a family. See ya. Like, it just, I was like, are you serious? Like, it's just so both waysy.
Well, that's because they, again, part of her, like, making her seem so naive and, like, Will Ferrell and Elf-like is that she's, like, essentially asexual. There's like nothing sexual about her. She doesn't seem to know
so
what sex
childish,
is.
too.
Exactly, so childlike.
And she gets like dumber after she leaves the North
I think
Pole
it has to do with her tights.
And it's
the circulation
variety of tights that
she's
she has.
like wearing this like fur hat and gloves in what's probably like 80-degree weather in Phoenix, and it's just like, take this shit off, you idiot.
Okay, but
she's
it's
so
Elf.
naive.
We didn't say that to the elf, did we?
But anyway, so she's an
Caitlin.
idiot, or she's characterized to be that way. So she's given like no sexuality, even though she's like clearly a 30-year-old adult woman. And we know that the Santa family fucks, like Daddy Santa, who's, again, there's no way to say this without sounding judgy, but Santa's like 80 and she's like 8 when like in the first scene. And it's like, okay, good for you, Santa.
We don't know how their aging system works, Caitlin.
Sure.
I will say that in Elf, which is, I think, a movie that this movie is very obviously stealing from a lot. Will Ferrell, an equally childish character, does end up getting with his love interest.
True.
And I feel like
Because men are allowed to do that. Women
exactly.
Are not.
It seems like they're trying to do a progressive thing by denying her of the love interest. But it's like, if you're putting it there and you're devoting all this narrative, emphasis on it, to deny it, I don't know. It just, I was like, what are you trying to do?
I think that it's okay that there isn't a love interest in this movie because that's so tropey as well in terms of like, women always have to be in love with someone. But also they set it up forever. And then it was just like, oh, it's just for the kid or something, right?
It just seemed mean at the end. I'm like, okay, if you like, you don't need to include it. It didn't need
to be that kind of tension. It could have been like a very like friendly, amicable, like, you're going to teach me. He could be her manic pixie. Like he teaches her how to be. Yeah. Although she's sort of manic pixie. Oh, she's totally manic.
She's also like kind of born sexy yesterday, but not sexy, just like born yesterday. And
but also 30. Like,
that's what drives me crazy about like putting adults in like kids movie. Like I just saw Frozen 2, brag, and the whole movie, all I could think about is how like Anna, the character Anna in Frozen 2 was like, she and like Kristoff, are they fucking yet? Like he's trying to propose to her. Are they gonna like, do they fuck? And like, that's all I could think about.
Okay,
and it's
Caitlin,
like,
that sounds like a you thing.
that might be a me thing, but it's also like that's what is, you run into some tricky stuff when you put adults into a kid's movie is what I'm saying. Because it's like, are they fucking?
Right. I mean, it's like we're adults, so we want to know who's fucking, right?
Sure.
But
Obviously, that's what I ask every day when I wake
I'm
up.
like,
Who in the world is fucking currently? Is it me?
What I've recently started asking is why.
Sorry, let's just not have any of that. Cool.
Anyways, I don't think there needed to be a love story, but the fact that they included it and then didn't complete it, I thought was very bizarre.
And some of it is that men and women can't just be friends.
Right.
So like,
Yeah.
like I don't think they knew how to create intimacy. And this is something we talk about on our podcast a bunch, in that like the few times that this appears in shows like Elementary, for example, has really great platonic, like super loving platonic relationships between hetero men and women. But I don't like, this movie didn't know how to do that, which is what I think it should have just been.
Right. Which would have been very like equally effective. It's like, you don't even need to get rid of those characters. I thought they worked in the story, but it just, the way it was like, oh, it's this flirtation. I'm asking you out. Just kidding. I'm Santa. You're just like, what? Like, it just was very weird to me.
I have, this is like pure speculation, but I can't help but wonder, because the Jake character who's like poised as a maybe potential, and maybe they're setting up for like Noelle too. They get together.
Noelle has to, what is this, Santa Claus 2? Noelle has to get married by midnight or else Christmas is canceled.
Right. I wonder if it has anything to do with the fact that he is one of the few characters in this movie that has like any narrative significance, who is a person of color. And like, I think a lot of audiences, especially like maybe the type of people who would like want to see a Disney, like who like love like Disney family children's movies, also would like not want to see a mixed race couple or like,
Oh, I don't know. I don't really know. I mean, it's like, that's the thing is, I think that like, the frustrating thing with me for, God, the character, Jake and Alex, father, son, there's the things they chose to focus on with those two characters and that whole family, like Alex's, this is so hard. Alex's mother and father were both like a black man and woman, right? And like, I'm not arguing that they should be removed from the movie. It's just like there's more effective ways to use those characters, almost like regardless of race. You know, it's like you so rarely see a single parent in movies, and you see that in moments and you're like, oh, this is kind of cool and this is relatable for a lot of kids. Maybe we should go into this a little more. But instead it kind of diverts, and then it goes back to the flirtation. And then at the end, Jake shows up at his ex's house without any warning on Christmas Eve.
And she's like all happy about it.
Like, okay.
I don't think that's what her reaction would be.
I was like, she's mad.
She had
she's
invited
not
him.
okay.
Yeah.
They say that she had invited him.
Oh, they do. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
It's still weird.
You don't RSVP as
Text.
Right.
Text Jake. Text.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm glad that there is like a whole, there's like a black family included in this narrative. I mean, in terms of the way that specifically Jake is written to be a romantic interest, I just think is like kind of like dumb.
It's like halfway
It's just
there.
Disney
and
dumb.
not-
Well, we don't do a rating system on our podcast, but now I feel like we should. Like, you have a rating system. How would you rate this?
Oh, woof.
It passes the Bechdel test a
It
bunch.
does. Oh, right. It would between like
Usually
Noelle and
when
her
there's a
mom
female
and
protagonist, it's
Noelle.
like a higher
Yeah.
probability.
Yeah.
Noelle and Shirley MacLaine, Polly are talking.
They talk about.
I would give this, I maybe like, by today's standards, because it came out very, very
2
recently.
weeks ago, yeah.
I guess like a 2.5, because it's like
Out of what?
out of 5. Sorry. It's making a feeble attempt, but it's like very clear that not a whole lot of thought was put into really anything that would have allowed this to be like a more progressive text.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing. Yeah, I would probably do about because it's like, this is good because we've been recording a bunch of holiday episodes, and the holiday movie narrative tends to focus on privileged little white boys. And so it's not, this one focuses on a privileged little white girl
who's actually a woman, but she acts like
a woman, but
girl.
She's hashtag question mark. Like, it's not great, but it is an attempt at something. And I hopefully in future years, they'll, maybe hire a woman, perhaps a person of color behind the camera to write a movie that isn't just bizarre. Like, I don't even think this movie is bad per se. I don't think it's bad for the world. I don't think it's bad for children. I just think it's weird for everybody.
I'm sure it's definitely not a winner.
No.
Yeah, I bet there's like,
There's
7-year-old
worse.
girls out there who saw this and they might feel empowered.
They could be Santa.
A role that's been
Or they just want
traditionally
candy cane tights.
yeah, that too. But it's like, a role that's been traditionally occupied by a man, like Santa. A girl can do that too. I could do that. So maybe that
Boss
empowers
girl.
her.
Right. It's like, I could be a girl boss. Because the end,
girl boss, whatever. I don't know.
the end was very like boss girl, girl boss, because the ending, there was like this Anna Kendrick narrated epilogue that she's like, so yeah, I'm a CEO now. Anyways, I promoted my friend. The end. Like, you're just like, oh, wow, parody, JK.
Oh, because she
promoted Shirley MacLaine
to be an elder elf. Yeah, right.
the first female elder elf. And you're like, okay.
Nepotism.
Yeah. Just like, I guess so.
I'll give it, I mean, gross, but I'll also give it that because women lifting, like, people, oppressed folks
also,
lifting
like,
each other up
it's
once they get up there and not trampling on each other. But still, it's the whole thing's gross.
And then older women visibility too.
Yeah.
Shirley MacLaine visibility, period.
I love when you get to see women who you're told do things, but you don't ever see them do things.
Yeah.
Cool. So we watched this movie, so you super don't have to. You're
You
welcome.
really don't.
And we'll be right back with our weekly freakouts. Are you curious about the new Games and Online Harassment Hotline? We'll be launching it in January, but we need to raise the capital for it right now. If you want to be part of the solution and help us end this culture of abuse in gaming, head on over to feministfrequency.com/donate and give generously. Now it's time to talk about what's been thrilling us, moving us, upsetting us, or infuriating us this past week. I'm going to go first, which I've never done before, so I don't know how to cue myself in. So I just finished a book called The End of the Day by Claire North. And if that name sounds familiar, it's because I had talked about a previous book of hers called 84K, which I loved. So now I'm just like taking in everything of hers. The End of the Day is a book that I literally can't describe, even though I'm about to. It is a white British man named Charlie, and he is the harbinger of death. And in this universe, death and war and famine, they all have harbingers that are real humans, and they go around and they, harbinge. And so like, Charlie goes and he gives things to people that his boss, Death, tells him to do. So whether he's bringing a pen to somebody or he's bringing like other things, whatever, like someone chocolates or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so you kind of follow him as he goes around the world and interacts with different cultures and different people who all have very different responses to this random ass white dude knocking on their door being like, I am the harbinger of death. The book does a lot to talk about death metaphorically in terms of the death of an idea or a courtesy visit or a warning visit, right? It's not always like you're going to die if the harbinger arrives. And it's very political. Like Claire North clearly has a very political, progressive point of view. And so it gets into so many details around like war in the Middle East and climate change. There's a whole huge thing. I thought originally the book was going to be about climate change, which is a type of end, right? Global warming. I'm trying not to say climate change. Anyways, and so it's just it is sort of uncategorizable. I don't know how to explain, like, if you're like these kinds of books, you'd enjoy this, but I really enjoyed it a lot and had no idea where it was going at any given moment. So The End of the Day by Claire North is my freak out this week.
Very nice.
All right.
Okay.
Who's next?
I'll go.
Caitlin,
I'll go. Okay.
Caitlin.
Hours ago, moments ago, saw Knives Out.
Oh my God, I want to see it so bad.
Loved it.
Is it great?
It's great. I loved it so much. I didn't watch it through like the Bechdel Cast lens, so I don't know totally
I just
how
want
it
to
would
see it
fare.
first.
Yeah, so that's what I did. I was like, oh, let me enjoy something for once in my damn life. So I just, watched it through my normal lens and was a blast. Give it on the Caitlin Durante Rompo-meter.
Oh, really?
It's a 10 out of 10 on the Rompo-meter.
I'm going tomorrow.
Oh, nice.
I'm
Let
so
me know what you think. Yeah, I had, and it's more, I would say to not, literally can't say anything without spoiling it, anything specific. So I'll just say that there are many characters who are women, and you'd be surprised, is what I'll say.
That's literally,
you'd be
that's
surprised.
funny. I'm so excited.
I don't even know what that means.
Yeah,
but apparently we all need to see
but
this.
We would be surprised.
But if you've seen it, you're like, I know what she's talking about.
I was so excited.
So yeah, it's great. I loved it.
Great.
Cool.
All right, Jamie.
All right, I've got several. I'm ready. Okay.
Oh, wow.
So I just
Several. Jesus.
Take up
Let's
space,
buckle in.
Jamie.
I this morning I finished She Said by Jodi Kantor and Megan Twohey, which is the book published by the Pulitzer Prize winning New York Times writers who basically busted open the Harvey Weinstein scandal and the Me Too movement. And it's just really, really interesting. I had to read it in chunks. I've had the book for about a month just because it's very heavy. But if you're interested in how stories of sexual abuse are reported, because it's like so hard to report stories like that, I would highly recommend it. It's very heavy. You might need to pick it up and put it down a couple times, but it was wonderful. I like true crime because I'm a sicko. And so I just also watched Who Killed Little Gregory.
I don't really know what that is.
It's, as of this recording, it is new on Netflix.
Okay.
And it is a series about a very, very, very very famous French crime that took place in the 80s, that there's actually like a lot of gender politics in as well. But the central question is, who killed little Gregory? And people think it's women a lot.
Okay.
But, I won't spoil anymore,
Okay.
even though you can't really spoil real life. But that's how true crime works. And finally, I have been freaking out about Chris Garcia's podcast, Scattered.
Oh, okay.
It's really, really good. He's a comedian in the LA area. He just released a podcast on WNYC, and it's about kind of going back in his dad's life. So he is of Cuban descent. His dad survived Castro's labor camps. And then after his dad passes away, he kind of uses this podcast to go back and find out more about his dad's life and the things that his dad survived, and just kind of learn more about him after the fact. And it's very beautiful, and I cried a lot, and you should listen to it.
Oh, wow.
Amazing.
Yeah.
You just took up all the freakouts.
I'm just
You got them all out.
I'm freaking out.
So much freaking
I'm
out.
losing my shit.
That's the whole point. If you want to freak out along with us, you can submit your own at feministfrequency.com/freakout. That's FREQOUT. Thanks so much for listening to Feminist Frequency Radio. Stay tuned for the Freakin' After Party, only available to backers of this podcast. We're going to get a little bit more time with Caitlin and Jamie. You can learn more at patreon.com/femfreak. Thank you so much for joining us. So you all should check out the Bechdel Cast podcast, which is on all of the things if you want to hear
Very
that.
accessible.
Easy to
Very
get.
accessible.
Yeah.
And if they want to get a hold of both of you, how would they do that? Or not get a hold of?
My number's 617.
Yeah. Where on the socials can they learn more about your public lives?
Oh, sure. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Caitlin Durante. That's CAITLIN.
Keep going.
We'll put it in the show notes. It's fine.
Thank you.
I'm on Twitter at Jamie Loftus Help and Instagram at Jamie Christ Superstar. Yeah.
Yeah, good ones.
I couldn't pick one, so I picked two.
You can find us everywhere great podcasts are found. And if you haven't yet, go to iTunes and subscribe, rate, and review us. You can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, and all the social medias at FemFreq. The show is engineered by Rob Para. Carrie Stimpson provides technical support, artwork by Jamie Varon, and our intro music is by Phil Circus. Join us next week for the last episode of the year. Thanks for listening.
Ho, ho, ho.
Okay, that's it.